Danny Johnson, it's very interesting. I mean, I'd never met Ian Maxwell before. Obviously, he is her brother. You know, many people may watch it and think, well, he would say all that, wouldn't he? And there may well be merit to some of the procedural arguments he's making about the way this all got played out. But it does remain the case that it's completely baffling to me how the only person who's ever been made legally accountable for the actions of Jeffrey Epstein, one of the most predatory paedophiles, certainly high-profile paedophiles in modern American history, is a woman who's languishing in jail. And no other men, apparently, were ever involved in any criminal activity with this guy. What is your view about this?
First off, kudos to you, Piers. That interview was spectacular. What the hell is going on here, Piers? So he's saying that the Prince Andrew photo's fake? You're joking. He's saying that it's a doctored photos. This is the opinion of the Maxwell family, that she never hung out with Prince Andrew. And then 2 questions later, he says, when they were all hanging out together with Prince Andrew, exactly what the hell just happened? That's crazy talk, man. And then his admissions about his father and his workings with foreign intel agencies. These are some bombshell admissions and some things that I really hope get asked in the federal testimony that is going to be elicited from Ghislaine Maxwell, that I have sources inside of the DOJ and the FBI that says that meeting is on the books. It's not something that they're dangling in front of us, Piers. It's not some shiny object. It's happening. It's already on the schedule, and it's going to happen. And so what's going to become of that? I'd really love to see the answers to that question. Ghislaine Maxwell is on the record saying she doesn't believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Well, why exactly? What was the operation? Did you literally sex traffic thousands of women to no one? Who was your father? Did you meet Prince Andrew? Is this a doctored photo, as you just elicited, out of her brother? These are wild bombshells. Bang on, Piers. That interview is something else.
Well, also, I just think in the end, you know, Andrew paid Virginia Giuffre $11 million reportedly to not go to court and clear his name as he vowed to. And secondly, Ghislaine Maxwell paid apparently several $1 million to Virginia Giuffre to avoid going to court and defending herself against her claims that Virginia Giuffre was a liar. So, you know, I agree that in America, a lot of people settle without any admission of fault or blame or guilt. However, when a load of people caught up in one of the biggest scandals of modern times are paying millions of dollars to people while simultaneously claiming they weren't victims and nothing happened and there's nothing to see here, Gov, I'm just not buying it.
Well, here's, I think, the most important part. And if you speak with any federal prosecutor, as we've done multiple times on my show, you'll find something very strange here. And it really aligns perfectly and locks in with the Diddy trial. And there are major connections between the two. But here's the most major glaring connection that any federal prosecutor will scream from high heavens until his voice cracks over, which is you can't charge a RICO case without any co-conspirators. The way a RICO case and a kingpin case works, and Epstein's case was a kingpin case, was you start bringing in the lower level people and charging them. Same thing with Diddy, with the RICO case. You bring in the people who brought in the prostitutes or found the young women, who set up the freak-offs, who set up Epstein's island. You prosecute the pilots, you prosecute the underlings, and then you build yourself up to a RICO case. In both cases, it was a wrap-up operation. The prosecution, Piers, was the cover-up. This was an opportunity for the federal government to seal something, not to expose something. And that's what has bothered so many people. They are intricately connected.
Okay, Vinny, do you accept that this has all been handled incredibly badly by the Trump administration? Because I think that's inarguable now, right? I mean, they walked everybody up the hill, and then right at the point that certainly I think a lot of MAGA voters were expecting to have full disclosure on all the Epstein files, Elon Musk suddenly goes public and says, bombshell. Donald Trump's, the biggest bombshell is that he's in the Epstein files. 2-3 weeks later, everything is shut down. You don't have to be a mad conspiracy theorist to say, well, what's going on here? I did, and I've known Donald Trump 20 years and like him very much, and I totally accept that he might be completely blameless when it comes to anything involving Epstein of a nefarious nature. But the sequence of events here is not good.
Absolutely not, Piers, and it's good to see you again.
And you.
But yeah, Piers, and here's the thing, Piers. It's all the people, it's the team around him. Okay, he didn't, Trump did make a promise, Piers, when he was asked, you know, will you release JFK? Yes. Martin Luther King? Yes. 9/11? Yes. Jeffrey Epstein? Yeah. But with that one, we kind of got to be careful, okay? So it wasn't like he ran on it. It wasn't a campaign promise. But when your team, the Pam Bondis, the Cash Patels, and Dan Bongino, who I admire and I love a lot, are out there on the front lines making all these promises. Piers, you personally, if you had your team of producers and all these people around you, they're speaking on your behalf and they're making all these promises, wouldn't you be like, hey guys, shut the hell, like what the hell are we doing?
Well,
so it's just shady from the
Vinny,
beginning.
I think it's worse than that, because we all know how Donald Trump operates. They wouldn't have all been doing that off their own bat, right? They'd have all been doing it because they have been encouraged to do it. They were speaking on behalf of his administration. So something went down, and I don't know what it was, and maybe it was the Elon Musk thing. I don't know what it was. I mean, we've now got the Wall Street Journal obviously publishing what they claimed was a hand-drawn, bawdy letter bearing Donald Trump's name to Jeffrey Epstein at Ghislaine Maxwell's request for his 50th birthday album in 2003. A pair of small arcs donate women's breasts. The future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. Now, Trump has responded by saying it absolutely wasn't anything that he did. He's now suing the Wall Street Journal. He's suing Rupert Murdoch for billions of dollars. And we'll have to see how that all plays out. But it was no doubt that they were very good friends for a period of time. It's also no doubt that, to his credit, Trump dropped him when he became knowledge that he was a convicted pedophile, which a lot of other people didn't, including, I don't believe, Ghislaine Maxwell. So I do think there's like life before the conviction and life after the conviction for public figures. If you carried on like Prince Andrew, hanging around a guy who's been convicted of soliciting an underage girl for sex, then I'm afraid you are then guilty by association, right? You can try and pretend you're not, but you are.
Piers, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
You've known Donald Trump for 20 years, admittedly, yes? Okay. You've hung out with him in private. You've hung out with him in public. Yes. Okay. Have you ever known him to be a limp-wristed thespian? Like a vaudevillian poet that would write enigmatic, mysterious poems to Jeffrey Epstein, and then wear some type of French hat and draw beautiful outlines of women scantily clad. Like, does it sound like Donald Trump to you?
I can say two things about that. I'll say three things about that. One, he's never done that to me, okay, in either written or verbal form. Secondly, evidence has come out that he's been quite a doodler in his time. So I don't think he's never non-doodled. And thirdly, as you probably know, Ben, I mean, I've got probably 150 handwritten scrawls from Trump over things he's read about me, emails I've sent him. That's his way he corresponds. He doesn't use email himself. He'll send you back a printout of your email and he'll scrawl with his Sharpie whatever he wants to scrawl. So he's a scrawler and apparently a doodler, but I have never known him right in the way that you're talking about. So it's going to be a really interesting case here. Listen, the Wall Street Journal wouldn't have published that if they weren't convinced it was genuine. But Trump has been emphatic in his denial.
Shouldn't we be calling for them?
Well, no, listen, I don't know.
Apparently, they don't even have the documents. Shouldn't we be calling for them to release every letter?
Right, listen,
Wouldn't that be fair to release? What was Bill Clinton writing Jeffrey Epstein at that time?
Benny, I don't know the answer to the questions you're asking, and it'll be interesting if this actually goes to any actual trial about it.
And Piers, if you don't mind, Piers, and Benny, one of the biggest problem is that Truth Social post where Trump goes, hey, listen, if you're still talking about it, why are you talking about it? Then I don't need your support. And it's like, what are you talking about? People like me who've been there since 2016 in Los Angeles, I had to move. I was doing stand-up comedy and acting. You know how much crap I had to go through, punched in the head because I had a red hat, wasn't even a Trump hat. All the jobs that I missed, all my career suffered from it. Pat, we're ride or die, and I think that's where people were pissed off. Is don't just discard us, okay, and just tell us the absolute truth. You know, we just want the truth. Tell us the truth. Tell us what the hell is going on. You know what I mean? Like it's
Vinny,
BS.
I hear you.
It's
Vinny,
not like,
I hear you because I do think a lot of MAGA voters feel exactly the same way. But I think they were deliberately led up a pathway here on the Epstein files that A, it was a really big deal, and that B, there was a lot that the public weren't being told that was available to the authorities, and that the moment the Trump gang got back into power, that this would all be revealed. And then after Donald Trump won, the team carried on revving everybody up. Let me come to you, Mick Mulvaney, if I may. We're going to fix Vinny's earpiece, I think. Mick Mulvaney, as we're talking, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, has just sent the House into recess early, shutting down until September to block a vote calling for the release of the Epstein files. He says it's because the Democrats are playing political games. All other votes have been cancelled in order to prevent the vote on Epstein. So the idea of this isn't having real-world significant consequences is obviously for the birds. When the House is shutting down and other votes are being cancelled because they can't take a risk of a vote on Epstein, then it's a big deal. And I think it's a big deal because of all the activity on the Trump side before and after the election about these files. What's your view?
I think that's fair. I've never seen this happen before. I've been in Washington for 15 years. I was in Congress for 6, I was in the White House for 4. I don't remember ever seeing Congress just shutting down this early in July and leaving until September. Keep in mind, and I know that's not what this segment is about, but there's a lot of other things that Congress needs to be doing. The federal government runs out of money the end of September, so they're staring at a federal shutdown if they don't pull something off when they get back. This is a big, big deal, and I think it comes back to the point you guys have raised. They don't know how to handle it. Everybody's confused because Trump did make a big deal about this for a long time. I thought rightly so. And then just to sort of turn on a dime and say there's nothing to see here as a bunch of people scratching their heads. One of the most interesting things I've learned in this interview is a bunch of fascinating stuff. When you had Lauren Boebert on there, I don't think you'll find anybody more pro-Trump than Lauren Boebert in the United States House of Representatives. She has signed a discharge petition. That means very little to folks out in the real world. That's the most treasonous thing you can do against your leadership in the United States House. So if there's enough Republicans willing to go against the Speaker of the House and say, you know what, we don't care, we want this stuff to come out, that's also just sort of thumbing their nose at the president. Donald Trump a couple of weeks ago got asked, what does MAGA really mean? And he said, and he's got the right to say this, he says, MAGA means whatever I say it means. This is putting this to the test. I do think they've stepped here. I think they've already sort of tacitly admitted that by saying they're going to now try to release the grand jury testimony, see if that satisfies everybody. It won't. But they do have a problem here. And for the sake, look, to be perfectly clear, and I don't know if this has been, I think if anybody said this explicitly, I apologize for the repetition. I don't expect there's anything criminal about Donald Trump in these files. Is his name going to be in there? Sure, there's a bunch of names in there, but there's nothing incriminating here. Why do I believe that? Because if there were, the Democrats who have controlled this file for the last 4 years would have either leaked it out or put it out professionally.
That's exactly, you know what? That's exactly what I think. Why wouldn't they? They're chucking everything else at him. They were trying to get him jailed left, right, and centre.
Wouldn't it be worse than the Epstein?
Sorry, don't all talk at once, guys. I'm going to Benny.
Yeah.
Piers, unless they're on the list, like, think about it. You want to talk about Democrats? Like, of course they wouldn't want this out. Like, has anybody asked Bill Clinton why did Jeffrey Epstein visit the White?
Yeah, but you see, Vinny, that's also a good point. But that also raises the question that given they hadn't released anything, then that's why everybody wanted the Republicans to, and then they didn't. Benny, my thing with Trump is you can normally tell when he's worried about something by the sheer volume of things he does to try and distract everybody's attention. And several days ago, he posted more than 24 times on his social media platform, Truth Social, in just a couple of hours, phony mugshots of Obama showing him apparently being arrested in the Oval Office, posting about the NFL's Washington Commanders, demanding they change their name back to the Redskins, posting a video of a bikini-clad woman picking up and tossing a snake, a man somersaulting down a stairway, a red Lamborghini careering beneath a truck, a man jumping a fence and coming face-to-face with a speeding train, a woman breakdancing, a billiards tree, a man hacking away at a rock formation, a dirt biker doing stunts, a jet ski, a man ascending an obstacle course with a ladder, a man jump roping, a man pulling a block from a still-standing massive Jenga tower, a man tossing rubbish into a dumpster from his balcony, a man doing a flip, somebody carrying a heavy object on their shoulders, a man juggling a drop package of paper towels, and someone doing a skateboard trick. I mean, there's a lot of distraction there, Benny.
That sounds like a great social media feed.
It was actually very entertaining.
Like I'm going to follow.
Very entertaining, but normally something that he reserves for when he really is quite worried about something.
Well, yes, that's right. It's the same account that's also posted "kill all terrorists, you dumb bastards," and posted constantly about Rosie O'Donnell. And somebody who also said he has a bigger button than Kim Jong-un. I think, Mick, you might have been at the White House actually when that when that post was. I have a big red button and it actually works. Once again, this is President Trump, and the actions today. I don't know if I know you weren't taking it live because we were doing the interview, but the actions that President Trump said today in the White House moments ago when he was asked about this, he fielded a number of questions on Epstein. He said, let Pam Bondi release everything. Let the FBI release everything. Let them interview Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm confounded as to why Ghislaine Maxwell has never once gotten an opportunity to explain herself. Not in her trial. She never spoke. Not to the press. The one time that she did an interview from prison, she said Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. And I think they got to him. Well, who's they exactly? That's what shrouds the mystery here. And the move by the DOJ, I think we need to take a moment, step back and say, wait a second, this is the first time that the DOJ has ever reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell in the history of us trying to understand what the Epstein op actually is. And this goes back 20 years. If you really want to get down to the true cover-up, and this is what makes my blood boil, that people inside of the current Trump administration are walking around with a dark cloud over them for a cover-up that happened 20 years ago when President Trump was a TV host. This was happening in 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2008 with Robert Mueller at the FBI, with Alberto Gonzales as our attorney general, and George W. Bush as our president. This is when Epstein actually properly caught his sweetheart deal. So sweet it'd give you diabetes type 2, Piers.
Yeah, no, I know.
He was able to walk in and out of prison.
Outrageous.
He was dead to rights. Jeffrey Epstein should not be on the tip of anyone's tongue today. He should be rotting in a prison cell for life. Now, something dark happened then, 20 years ago nearly, and it had nothing to do with President Trump. No one on President Trump's team was in power. And I know clips from my show, Kash Patel, have gone viral. Clips from your show, Alina Habba, has gone viral. But none of these people were in power. None of them should have to answer for the cover-up that happened 20 years ago. And that should truly be the nexus of our questions. What happened then when Jeffrey Epstein was caught underage trafficking over 50 women in 2025? What happened was he started giving up sources to the FBI. Robert Mueller gave him immunity in 2005, correction. 2005, Robert Mueller was the head of the FBI. You know who was also at the FBI as a deputy? James Comey at that time, Piers. And so then through the course of the prosecution in Florida, the federal charges are dropped. Alex Acosta gets told he belongs to Intel and to not look into it. Jeffrey Epstein gets the sweetest of sweetheart deals, and Ghislaine Maxwell is arguing that I have immunity because the federal government told me I have immunity forever, which is something, of course, the federal government never does. So that's insane.
But Benny, let me ask you this.
All right, but Benny, looking at those questions.
Listen, I think you make a lot of very good points. I totally agree with you. But on this point about House Speaker Mike Johnson shutting the House down to avoid a vote on Epstein, how does that do anything but just ramp everything up tenfold?
Totally agree with you. You know, we went thermonuclear viral, made international news last week by asking Mike Johnson live on our stream inside of the United States Capitol about this issue. And he said he's totally in favor of full disclosure. What he said today was that he wants, I agree. I contend that there are countervailing opinions here. And but Mike Johnson told me in a 2-minute, what I thought very thorough answer, that he wants full disclosure here and that he'd be okay with Ghislaine Maxwell testifying before Congress. Now, what he said today was that he wants to give the White House time to maneuver this or to work on this. I'm not sure his exact language. So maybe Mick, who's been a member of Congress, can commentate on what that actually means. But that's what he told us last week.
Well, I'll come to Mick in a moment. Vinny, what do you feel about that? I mean, I just think that's such a bad move. To shut the House down and to block other votes happening simply so you can stop a vote on the Epstein scandal just seems to me a ridiculously inflammatory act, which is only going to pour fuel onto all the conspiracy flames.
I agree 100%. It's like, Piers, how many more games do we have to play? And at the end of the day, the root of all this, and I know Benny could attest, Benny has a family, you guys have kids. These are we're talking about children, okay? The most overlooked, uncared about freaking group of freaking people on the planet. We had 300,000 during Obama missing at the border. Trump, God bless him, they found with Thomas Homan 10,000. But at the crux of this whole thing, and Benny made a great point, 40, 50 women came out. We were taken advantage of. We were sexually assaulted by this guy. And what, he's free to go, and it's the they. Who's Alex Acosta saying? They said he worked for intelligence. Who are they? Who are these people? And Piers, there's a lot of debate where people are like, why would you want to do this? Maybe society's built on all this blackmail. If he works for Mossad and they have all this dirt, then the whole system's going to come down. There's a Latin term, and it says, let justice be done, though the heavens fall. I don't give a damn, Piers, what happens to the system. We're talking about children that were raped, that were freaking potentially murdered, Piers. Because if you think about it, these children, these underage 13, I know Epstein loved girls with braces. Those are 10, 11-year-old girls. What do you think happens with them when they sleep with one of these higher up people, like a really famous person? You think they just let them go? No, they're discarded, Piers, and that's the main part of it. And Trump needs to wrangle this freaking team.
You know what, Vinny?
Yeah.
We know what happens to some of them because we know what happened to Virginia Giuffre. She may not have been an impeccable witness. She obviously got things wrong with Alan Dershowitz. But the truth is, she was paid millions by Prince Andrew and by Ghislaine Maxwell not to go into a courtroom. And in my experience, when people pay millions of dollars to people, it's not because they've never met them or don't think there's anything to answer, right? So she recently, here's my point. She recently took her own life, right? So, some of these victims are actually taking their lives because of the appalling trauma that they went through. And so there are real-time consequences that are reverberating for many years after all this stuff. He was one of the worst pedophiles in America. Let's be clear. And Ghislaine Maxwell was at his side for a lot of that time. And I just don't buy the protestations of innocence. Mick Mulvaney. Vinny, sorry. Go on, make your final point.
Piers, me neither. And what was Prince Andrew? Pays $11 million. And what did the Queen do? What was his punishment? Jail? No, he was stripped of royal speaking duties. So if you're a pedophile and you're out there, your goal should be in a good family or be as rich and famous as possible, because then you could get away with it. All right, Piers? Why did Chase Bank paid almost $400 million? For what? Deutsche Bank paid $71 million to the victims. Where are all these people? If Ghislaine is in jail, Piers, where are the victims? You can't be in charge of a kingpin drug operation and you get arrested and there's no customers. What the hell are we talking about?
I totally agree.
Piers, is handling it horribly.
Vinny,
horribly.
I completely agree. I mean, Mulvaney, just finally, how damaging could all this be? Things seem to be moving at a fast lick here. And I do think this action by the Speaker is just going to absolutely ignite this. Because let's be honest, again, if this was the Biden administration and a Democrat Speaker of the House doing this to shut down a scandal because it may or may not, name Biden in it, all hell would be breaking loose from the other side. So I can only imagine how this is going to play out with the Democrats. You must be thinking Christmas has come early, right when they've been at their weakest point. But what do you think of the political damage that Trump potentially faces here? Because I listen to someone like Vinny, who's always been unbelievably supportive of Donald Trump. He's MAGA personified in so many ways. And I can feel the sense of slight betrayal with Vinny and slight, I've been let down here. And I don't blame him. I would do too.
I mean, keep in mind, Donald Trump's not running again, but the other Republicans are. I think what you're seeing today with this suspension of Congress is that a tacit admission that they just don't know how to handle this. Lost in a lot of the discussion is the technicalities of the discharge petition would have been ripe tomorrow. So it would have been a privileged motion and it could have passed as early tomorrow. And I think the House leadership just didn't know how to deal with that. So they tried to sort of take the next 6 weeks and figure out how to explain it, figure they have a better chance of winning in the press than they do on Capitol Hill. But they've got a tiger by the tail. They really do. This is one of the things that I think folks are really upset about is that Donald Trump has made a name for himself keeping his campaign promises. He's done it on immigration. He's done it on taxes. This is the difference, right? He promised to do this. Now, I know Benny said he didn't exactly promise as aggressively. I don't remember that. I just remember him talking about the Epstein files during the campaign, and folks really are scratching their head. I think at the end of the day, 6 months from now, when we look back at this, if it's done in 6 months, it will be, okay, did Donald Trump create the MAGA movement or did the MAGA movement create Donald Trump? That's a fascinating test. Did Trump really dictate what MAGA is, or are they going to dictate it to him over the course of these Epstein files? That's going to be fascinating to watch.
That's such a great question and such a great way to end. Guys, I thank you again for your patience, but I think it was worth it to have that Ian Maxwell interview go a bit longer than we planned because it was so interesting. But I really appreciate your patience in waiting, and I really appreciate the debate we've had since it. Thank you very much.